Ma'am, step out of that vehicle right now, or I will drag you out myself. Officer Kyle Brennan's hand slammed against the roof of the sedan, his face twisted with rage that had nothing to do with protocol and everything to do with power. The black woman sitting calmly behind the wheel hands, visible at 10 and 2 valid permit, hanging from her rearview mirror, didn't flinch. She simply looked at him with those steady, knowing eyes that made his blood boil even more. Officer, I'm legally parked with proper authorization. What's the actual problem here? That voice, that calm, educated, challenging voice, made something snap inside him. The problem is, you don't belong here, and you're about to learn what happens to people who don't follow orders. But before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and stay until the very end of this story. Comment below with your city name so we can see how far this story travels. You won't believe what happens next. The clock on the dashboard read 3:15 p.m. when Helena Sinclair's life split into before and after. She'd been sitting in visitor parking space number 12 for exactly 8 minutes. 8 minutes of waiting for the school bell to ring, for the doors to burst open with children's laughter, for her niece Maya's face to light up when she spotted her aunt's car. 8 minutes that should have been ordinary, should have been safe. The permit hung exactly where it was supposed to hang. White laminated cardstock with blue borders, Ridgemont Elementary's logo, printed crisp and official in the top left corner. October 21st, issued by the front office at 3:07 p.m., signed by Mrs. Linda Porter, the attendance clerk whose handwriting Helena had come to recognize over 6 months of Wednesday pickups. Every single detail correct, every box checked. The kind of documentation that should have mattered. But when Officer Kyle Brennan's boots hit the asphalt and started toward her car, Helena knew that documentation wasn't going to save her today. She kept her hands on the steering wheel. 10 and 2, always visible. Another habit she'd learned long before this moment, long before this particular parking lot in a lifetime of moments where being careful meant staying alive. Brennan's shadow fell across her windshield before his face appeared at her window. His right hand hovered near his belt, fingers twitching with an energy that had nothing to do with procedure and everything to do with anticipation. His partner, a younger woman with nervous eyes and a nameplate that read, Morales, hung back near their cruiser, which was parked at an angle that blocked Helena's exit. Ma'am, you need to step out of that vehicle right now. Helena kept her voice level, professional, calm. Officer, is there a problem? I'm parked in a designated visitor space with a valid permit. Brennan leaned down one hand, now gripping her door handle. This lot's for parents only. I'm here to pick up my niece. Helena gestured toward the placard without moving her hands from the wheel. I have authorization from her mother. The permit was issued less than 10 minutes ago. Permit doesn't mean you belong here. The words landed with deliberate weight. Not a question, not even a statement of policy. Just a declaration of territory, of power, of who got to decide who belonged where. Behind Brennan, the school's front doors swung open. Principal Diane Kellerman emerged, her heels clicking against the concrete walkway with the sharp, purposeful sound of someone who'd made a decision before arriving. She scanned the parking lot until her eyes found Helena's car, and something passed across her face. Not surprise, recognition, satisfaction almost. She said something to a teacher standing near the entrance, then adjusted her blazer and started across the lot, moving with the kind of confidence that came from knowing the rules would bend in her direction. Helena's pulse remained steady. 23 years had taught her to recognize the shape of trouble before it fully formed, the principal's trajectory, the officer's posture, the way other parents, mostly white, mostly comfortable, slowed their approach to the building, phones already rising to capture whatever was about to unfold. They sensed entertainment, drama, the kind of thing that would be good for social media. Helena reached slowly toward her glove compartment. I'm retrieving my registration and insurance information. Brennan's hand moved to his weapon. The parking lot went quiet. Even the children's voices from inside the building seemed to fade, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Hands where I can see them now. Helena froze her fingers inches from the glove compartment latch. "Officer, I'm complying with your request for documentation. I'm moving slowly and announcing my intentions. There's no reason for you to draw your weapon." "I decide what's a reason." Brennan's voice had taken on that particular quality Helena had heard before, that edge of excitement that came when someone realized they had power and an audience. "Put your hands back on the wheel." Helena did, slowly, deliberately, making each movement visible, predictable, unthreatening. Morales finally spoke up, her voice uncertain. "Kyle, she's got a permit. Maybe we should just—" "I've got this, Jess." Kellerman reached them slightly out of breath, her professional mask firmly in place. "Officer Brennan, thank you for responding so quickly." Helena's eyes narrowed. "I didn't realize anyone had called you." Kellerman turned to her with practiced concern, the kind that looked good from a distance but felt cold up close. "Miss Sinclair, we've had issues this semester with unauthorized pickups. Our protocol requires verification of anyone we don't immediately recognize." "My name is Mrs. Sinclair, and I've been picking up Maya every Wednesday since April. You personally signed off on my background check in March, so let's not pretend this is about recognition." A flush crept up Kellerman's neck, but her smile never wavered. "I'm sure you understand that with so many students, it's impossible to remember every guardian. I'll need to see identification." "I've already offered to show Officer Brennan my identification. He told me to keep my hands on the wheel." Brennan cut in. "Ma'am, I need you to step out of the vehicle now." "On what grounds?" "On the grounds that I'm giving you a lawful order." Helena's voice remained steady, but something in her tone shifted. Not louder, but sharper. "Officer, what's your badge number?" Brennan's jaw tightened. "That's not relevant." "It's extremely relevant. You're detaining me without stating probable cause. I'm asking for your identification just as you're asking for mine." "I'm not detaining you. I'm conducting an investigation." "An investigation into what crime?" "Trespassing." "I have written authorization." Helena gestured again toward the permit. "That's the literal opposite of trespassing." A small crowd had gathered now. Parents collecting their children had stopped, formed a loose semicircle around the scene. Some looked uncomfortable. Several had their phones out recording. Most just watched with that particular kind of curiosity that came from being spectators to someone else's crisis. Karen Rivera, a white woman in yoga pants, who Helena recognized from previous pickups, pushed to the front. "Diane, what's going on? I know this woman. She picks up Maya all the time." Kellerman's mask slipped for just a second. "Mrs. Rivera, unless you have relevant information, I need you to step back." "I do have relevant information. She has a permit. She's here every Wednesday. This is ridiculous." Brennan stepped toward Karen, one hand raised in a gesture that was supposed to look professional, but came across as threatening. "Ma'am, if you interfere with a police investigation, you'll be cited for obstruction. Step back now." Karen retreated, but her phone stayed up red light recording. Helena sat perfectly still. She'd done everything right, followed every rule, announced every movement, provided documentation, stayed calm, and somehow she was still the one being treated like a criminal. Morales approached Brennan, speaking low enough that she thought Helena couldn't hear. But Helena could. She'd spent 2 decades in courtrooms learning to hear what people thought was private. "Kyle, I don't think she actually did anything wrong. Maybe we should just verify with the office and—" "I said I've got this." Brennan's voice was loud enough now that everyone could hear. "The body cam will show her refusing to comply. That's all it needs to show." In the distance, sirens approached. Someone had called for backup. The window for de-escalation was closing fast, if it had ever been open at all. Helena kept her voice steady, projecting toward the witnesses, toward the cameras, toward anyone who might be listening. "For the record, I have not refused any lawful order. I've provided identification. I've explained my authorized purpose for being here. I am not resisting. What I am doing is exercising my constitutional right to question the legal basis for this detention and to document this encounter." She reached slowly for her phone on the dashboard. "I'm going to record this interaction, which is my legal right." "Don't touch that phone." Helena's fingers were already on it. She activated the voice recording app, placed it on the dashboard with the screen visible, red dot, pulsing with timestamp running. This is October 21st, 3:19 p.m. I am Helena Sinclair, legally parked in Visitor Space 12 at Ridgemont Elementary with valid authorization. Officer, she looked at his nameplate, Brennan is detaining me without stating probable cause. Brennan's face flushed red. Turn that off. I have the right to record a public official performing their duties. This parking lot is public space. Recording is legal. I said turn it off. Brennan reached through the window toward the phone. Helena pulled it back toward her chest, away from his reaching hand. The movement was defensive, protective of her property. Her arm brushed against his hand, barely contact, nothing that could remotely be called aggressive. But Brennan recoiled as if she'd struck him. Did you just hit an officer? That's assault? The words hung in the air, absurd and terrifying in equal measure. Helena's eyes widened. I did not strike you. You reached into my vehicle without permission. I moved my property away. Multiple witnesses can confirm that. But Brennan had already keyed his radio, his voice taking on that official tone that transformed lies into record. Dispatch Unit 14, Code 10 at Ridgemont Elementary. Subject refusing to comply. Possible 415 and 243. Requesting backup. 415. Disturbing the peace. 243. Battery on an officer. Both misdemeanors. Both fabricated. Both about to become part of Helena's permanent record unless she could prove they were lies. More parents had gathered, forming a wider circle. Some looked concerned. Several were recording. A bearded man in a business suit called out, "Officer, she's got a valid permit. What's the actual problem?" Brennan turned, scanning for the speaker. The problem is trespassing and assault on an officer. Unless you witnessed those specific events, you have nothing relevant to contribute. The man lowered his gaze and said nothing more. That's how it worked. The uniform carried authority that didn't need justification. Ms. Elena Ramirez Maya's homeroom teacher appeared at the crowd's edge. She saw Helena with hands raised, saw Brennan's aggressive posture, and her face went pale. She approached Kellerman carefully. "Principal Kellerman, I need to speak with you. Mrs. Sinclair has been on our approved list since April. I've personally verified her ID at least 20 times. Kellerman turned, her expression hardening. "Ms. Ramirez, return to your students." "But she's telling the truth. She's authorized. This is Ms. Ramirez." Kellerman's voice dropped to a whisper, but Helena could still hear it. She had excellent hearing, another courtroom skill. "Your contract comes up for renewal in June. Consider whether inserting yourself into matters outside your purview is wise." The threat was clear, subtle enough to be deniable, direct enough to be effective. Ms. Ramirez's hands trembled. She glanced at Helena, apology in her eyes, then retreated. Another witness intimidated into silence. A second cruiser pulled into the lot, lights flashing, but no siren. Sergeant Marcus Fenton emerged, older gray at his temples, with the practiced eyes of someone who'd worked patrol for decades. He assessed the scene quickly. Helena with hands raised, Brennan radiating aggression, Morales looking increasingly uncomfortable, a crowd of witnesses with phones, and a principal standing just far enough away to maintain deniability. "What's the situation?" Fenton's voice was neutral, professional. Brennan straightened. "Subject parked, unauthorized, refused to leave when ordered, assaulted me when I attempted to secure evidence of her noncompliance." Helena spoke before Fenton could respond, her voice carrying across the parking lot. "That's false. I'm parked legally with valid authorization. I have not assaulted anyone. Officer Brennan reached into my vehicle without permission. I moved my phone away from his grasp. That is not assault. That's protecting my property from unlawful seizure." Fenton looked between them. He'd been in law enforcement long enough to recognize when something didn't smell right. "Ma'am, do you have identification?" "I've already attempted to provide it. Officer Brennan told me to keep my hands on the wheel, then ordered me out of the vehicle without allowing me to retrieve my documentation." Fenton turned to Brennan. "Did you verify her ID?" She reached for the glove compartment in a threatening manner. "I announced my intention to retrieve my registration. There was nothing threatening about it." Fenton walked to Helena's car and examined the permit through the windshield. He photographed it with his phone, then radioed dispatch. Run a check on Helena Sinclair date of birth. He looked at Helena. November 12th, 1976. Dispatch confirmed. Clean record. No warrants. Address matched. Current registration. For a moment, Helena hoped that Fenton might be reasonable, might be the kind of officer who followed evidence instead of ego. Then Kellerman stepped forward. Sergeant, our school policy requires direct verification with the parent or guardian when there's any question about authorization. Mrs. Sinclair was asked to leave and return after we could reach her sister. She refused. That's not accurate, Helena said, her voice still controlled, but with an edge now. I explained that Dr. Sinclair is in surgery at County General and unreachable for the next 4 hours. I offered to wait while you checked your own records, which clearly show I'm authorized. What I refused was leaving immediately, which would have meant my 9-year-old niece had no one to pick her up. Fenton consulted his notes, then looked at Kellerman. Is the child's mother currently unreachable? I have no way of knowing that for certain. So you didn't actually attempt to contact her before calling police? Kellerman's jaw tightened. Our records showed only specific individuals authorized, and until we could verify, your records are wrong, Helena interrupted. I was added to Maya's approved list in September. If your administration failed to update your system, that's not my problem. That's yours. The school bell rang. Children began pouring out of the building, a tide of small bodies and high voices and backpacks bouncing. Teachers tried to direct them toward waiting parents, but several students had already spotted the police cars and were pointing excited by the unusual activity. Helena's chest tightened. Somewhere in that crowd was Maya. She turned to Fenton. Sergeant, my niece is about to come outside. She's 9 years old. Can we please move somewhere less visible? Whatever you think I've done, she doesn't need to see her aunt surrounded by police. Fenton's expression didn't change. Procedure requires we complete documentation on site. Then at least let someone tell her what's happening before she sees. And then it was too late. Maya emerged from the side entrance, yellow backpack bouncing against her shoulders, braids tied with purple ribbons that matched her shirt. She scanned the parking lot for Helena's car, her face bright with the anticipation of Wednesday ice cream and help with homework and the comfortable routine they'd built together over 6 months. Her eyes found the police cruisers first. Then Helena hands raised officers surrounding her. Maya's face crumbled. She dropped her backpack and ran. Aunt Helena, Aunt Helena. Her voice carried high and terrified across the parking lot, cutting through adult conversation and police radio chatter and the ambient noise of pickup time. Aunt Helena, what are they doing? Ms. Ramirez moved to intercept, but Maya was fast. She dodged between parents heading straight for Helena with the single-minded determination of a child whose world was suddenly terrifyingly wrong. Morales stepped into her path, arms outstretched. Sweetie, you need to stay back. That's my aunt, Maya tried to push past. They're hurting her. Helena's voice cut through the chaos, firm and clear, and doing everything it could to sound calm. Maya, baby, I'm okay. This is a misunderstanding. Go back to Ms. Ramirez. No. Maya's sobs grew louder. I want to go home with you. You promised. The anguish in her niece's voice cracked something in Helena's carefully maintained composure. Her hands started to lower, reaching instinctively for the child who needed comfort. Hands up. Keep your hands where I can see them. Brennan's shout made Maya flinch and cry harder. Helena forced her hands back up, blinking hard against the tears that wanted to come. Maya, please. Go with Ms. Ramirez. I'll call your mom. This is going to be okay. Ms. Ramirez caught up gently, taking Maya by the shoulders. Come on, sweetie. We'll call your mom together. Maya fought against her grip. They can't take her. She didn't do anything wrong. The crowd's energy shifted. What had been curiosity was now discomfort. Watching a 9-year-old's terror made the abstract concrete. Several parents exchanged glances like they were starting to question whether this was really about security or something else entirely. Karen Rivera spoke again, louder now. Officer, you're traumatizing this child. Is that really necessary? Brennan didn't look at her. Maybe the aunt should have thought about that before assaulting an officer. The lie stated with such casual confidence hung in the air. Several parents who'd witnessed the actual interaction shifted uncomfortably. A few whispered to each other, but no one else spoke up. Speaking up meant becoming part of the problem, and most people had learned it was safer to be a spectator. Ms. Ramirez finally guided Maya back toward the building, the child's sobs audible from 30 feet away. Helena stood motionless, watching her niece disappear through the doors, watching the one person she'd come here to protect learn a lesson no 9-year-old should have to learn, that authority wasn't the same as safety, and rules didn't protect you if people had already decided you were the problem. Helena blinked hard, forced her breathing even. Emotion was ammunition. They'd use tears against her use anger, against her use anything that wasn't perfect compliance, as evidence that they'd been right about her all along. Kellerman addressed the crowd with practiced authority. "Everyone, this situation is under control. Please collect your children and clear the pickup area." Most parents complied. They gathered their children, who kept looking back at the drama with wide eyes, and headed to their cars. Some cast backward glances. Most kept their heads down. But at least a dozen phones were still out, still recording footage that would be uploaded to social media within minutes, shared and commented on and analyzed by strangers who didn't know Helena's name, but would have opinions about what she'd done wrong. Fenton approached Helena's vehicle. "Ma'am, I need you to step out of the car now." Helena met his eyes. "Am I under arrest?" "You're being detained, pending resolution of the trespassing and battery complaints." "On what evidence? I have documentation showing I'm authorized to be here. The body camera will show I made no aggressive contact with Officer Brennan. Multiple witnesses can testify to that. So I'm asking again, what evidence supports this detention?" Fenton's expression remained neutral. "That's for the courts to decide. Right now, you need to comply with my instructions. I want to speak with an attorney. You'll have that opportunity at the station. Step out of the vehicle." Helena opened her door slowly, keeping her movements deliberate. She stepped out onto the asphalt, hands raised to shoulder height, palms open and visible. Every instinct screamed at her to resist this injustice, to use the authority she actually had to tell them exactly who they were arresting and watch their faces change. But she didn't, because this wasn't about her. Not really. This was about every person who didn't have her resources, her knowledge, her position. This was about documenting exactly what happened when someone did everything right and it still wasn't enough. This was about creating a record that couldn't be dismissed or ignored. Morales approached with handcuffs. "Ma'am, I need you to turn around, hands behind your back." Helena complied. "I'm not resisting. I want that stated clearly for the record." "Noted." Morales secured the handcuffs, checking the tightness. Professional, not as aggressive as Brennan would have been. "How's that feel?" "Tight but bearable." As Morales guided her toward the cruiser, Helena spoke over her shoulder to Fenton. "Sergeant, one more thing. This interaction will be reviewed by people with authority over your department. I suggest you ensure your report is scrupulously accurate." The phrasing was unusual, not threatening, not pleading, just advising like someone who understood how institutional reviews worked, like someone who knew this wasn't over. Fenton watched her settle into the back of the cruiser, watched the way she maneuvered her cuffed hands with practiced ease, watched her scan the interior of the vehicle like she was memorizing details. Something wasn't adding up. The way she spoke, her complete composure, the specific legal terms she deployed, that comment about people with authority. He turned to Brennan. "You're absolutely certain about the battery allegation, because if the body cam contradicts your statement, we've got a serious problem." Brennan's jaw set stubbornly. "She made aggressive contact. That's battery. The cam will show she was combative and non-compliant." "It better." Fenton pulled out his phone, making a note to review the footage personally before the report was finalized. "Because something tells me this woman knows exactly what she's doing." In the cruiser, Helena sat with her hands cuffed behind her, the metal digging into her wrists, just enough to be uncomfortable. She watched through the window as the remaining parents collected their children and drove away. By tomorrow, this would be gossip. By next week, barely remembered. But the footage would remain. Uploaded to servers shared across platforms, cached in ways that couldn't be erased. And somewhere in that digital record was the truth that would eventually surface. She just had to survive long enough to present it. The cruiser pulled away from Ridgemont Elementary at 3:47 p.m. Helena sat in the back seat, hands cuffed behind her, the metal cutting into her wrists. Morales drove. Brennan rode passenger, occasionally glancing back through the partition with an expression that mixed satisfaction and lingering anger. The vinyl seat smelled of decades of human misery, sweat, fear, cheap disinfectant, and something else Helena couldn't quite identify. Desperation, maybe. She kept her breathing steady, eyes forward, memorizing the route they took. Documentation mattered. Always. Brennan turned in his seat. You know what happens when people resist, things get worse. Helena didn't respond. Engaging would only provide ammunition. Silent treatment now. His voice carried mockery. Let's see how smart you sound after processing. Morales glanced at him. Kyle, leave it. I'm just making conversation. You're antagonizing a detained subject. Leave it. Brennan turned back around, but Helena could feel his tension radiating through the partition. He wanted her to react, to give him something else to put in his report. She wouldn't. The drive took 12 minutes. Helena watched familiar streets pass through the cage that separated her from the front seat. Her neighborhood, her city. Now seen through bars, through the lens of being arrested, through the sudden awareness that everything familiar could become hostile in an instant. They pulled into the station's rear bay at 3:59 p.m. Helena noted the time automatically. Another detail for the record. The booking area was fluorescent bright and institutional. Gray walls, scuffed linoleum, metal benches bolted to the floor. The smell of bad coffee and floor cleaner. A desk sergeant sat behind reinforced glass, his nameplate reading A. Lloyd. His expression professionally neutral from decades of processing human tragedy. Morales helped Helena out carefully. Watch your head. Thank you. They approached the desk. Lloyd looked up from his computer. What have we got? Brennan slid paperwork across. Trespassing battery on a peace officer, subject non-compliant at scene. Lloyd scanned the forms, then looked at Helena. His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes sharpened. Ma'am, full name. Helena Marie Sinclair. Date of birth. November 12th, 1976. Lloyd typed his fingers, moving with practiced efficiency. Then he paused. His eyes moved from the screen to Helena's face and back again. Something had caught his attention. Address: 4127 Oakmont Drive, Apartment 4B. More typing. Another pause, longer this time. Lloyd's fingers hovered over the keyboard. He clicked through several screens, reading carefully, his expression shifting from neutral to something else. Concern, maybe? Or recognition? Brennan leaned against the counter. Problem, Lloyd. No problem. Lloyd's voice remained carefully neutral. Ma'am, occupation. Helena maintained eye contact. Public service, county employee. Lloyd's eyebrows rose fractionally. He made a note, then reached for a clipboard. I need to inventory your property. Officer Morales, bring her effects. Morales placed Helena's purse, phone, and keys in a plastic tray. Lloyd documented each item methodically. Driver's license, credit cards, insurance card, $43 cash, one small notebook. He opened the notebook, flipping through pages. His eyes scanned the neat handwriting, dates, appointments, case references in careful shorthand. His expression shifted again. You keep detailed records. It's necessary for my work, Helena replied. I deal with complicated schedules. I can see that. Lloyd closed the notebook carefully, like someone who suspected these pages might matter later. He pulled out a standard booking form. Have you been arrested before? No. Any medical conditions, medications, injuries? No medical conditions. Officer Brennan's handcuffs are unnecessarily tight. I'd like that documented. Lloyd made a note. He gestured to Morales. Check the cuff tightness. Morales examined Helena's wrists. They're snug, but not cutting circulation. I said unnecessarily tight, Helena clarified. Not dangerous, just excessive given that I'm fully compliant. Lloyd wrote that down verbatim. Most arrestees complained about pain. This woman was making technical observations about appropriate use of force. You have the right to one phone call. Do you want that now? Yes, I need to reach my sister. She's in surgery at County General. Lloyd slid a phone across. 5 minutes. Helena recited the hospital's number from memory. She explained the situation calmly to the operator. Her daughter needed pickup. Her sister was in custody. Could they please inform Dr. Claudia Sinclair as soon as she was out of surgery? No emotion, no drama, just information delivered with the efficiency of someone who understood that panic didn't help. When she hung up, Lloyd was watching her. "You're very composed for someone facing criminal charges." "Panic doesn't help," Helena said, "and I haven't committed any crime." Brennan interjected from where he'd been standing. "You assaulted me. That's a crime." Helena turned to face him, her expression unchanged. "I withdrew my property when you reached into my vehicle without probable cause. Multiple witnesses observed the interaction. The body camera will confirm I made no aggressive contact. What you're describing is a false arrest, Officer Brennan." The precision of her response made Lloyd's eyes narrow. He addressed Brennan. "The body cam footage has been uploaded." "Standard upload," Brennan said. "It'll show everything." "I'm sure it will." Lloyd made another note. Then he turned back to Helena. "You mentioned filing a complaint. Do you want to do that now?" "After I have legal representation," Helena said. "But I'm stating for the record that this arrest is retaliatory. I filed a Title VI complaint with the school district 3 weeks ago regarding discriminatory treatment. Today's incident is directly related." Lloyd's pen stopped moving. Title VI complaints were federal civil rights matters. They had teeth. "You filed with the school district. Certified mail received October 3rd. Tracking number and correspondence are in my phone, which has been seized. I'm requesting all my property be preserved as evidence." Morales shifted uncomfortably. "Kyle, did you know about a prior complaint?" Brennan's face flushed. "Doesn't matter. She committed a crime today." "Actually," Lloyd set down his pen, "it might matter significantly. Ma'am, who did you file the complaint with?" "The superintendent's office," Helena said. "Copies sent to Principal Kellerman and school board member Victor Lansing. Nature of the complaint, systematic harassment during authorized school visits, pattern spanning 6 months." Lloyd wrote quickly. This was no longer simple trespassing. If there was documented harassment and then police were called, that pattern looked like retaliation. And retaliation against someone who'd filed a federal civil rights complaint opened up serious liability. "Sergeant," Lloyd said carefully, "I need to notify my supervisor about this booking." Brennan straightened. "It's standard processing. Why involve supervision?" "Because this arrest may have complicated implications," Lloyd said. "I'm not signing off on the paperwork until everything's properly documented." He turned back to Helena. "Ma'am, you'll be held in a cell until booking is complete. Do you understand your rights?" "I do," Helena said, "and I'm invoking my right to remain silent until I have legal counsel." Lloyd nodded. Smart. She knew when to stop talking. "Officer Morales, escort Mrs. Sinclair to holding cell 3. As they walked away, Lloyd called after them. "Mrs. Sinclair." Helena paused and looked back. "The public defender's office will be notified. Someone should be here within 2 hours." "Thank you, Sergeant." Lloyd watched her disappear down the corridor, then picked up his phone and dialed. "This is Sergeant Lloyd, booking desk. I need Lieutenant Patterson immediately. We may have a situation." Holding cell 3 was 8 feet by 10. Concrete walls painted institutional beige that had probably been white 20 years ago. A metal bench bolted to one side. A toilet in the corner with no privacy screen because privacy was a privilege that ended the moment those handcuffs clicked shut. The fluorescent light overhead hummed with that constant mosquito whine that never stopped, the kind of sound that burrowed into your skull after the first hour. Helena sat on the bench, hands finally uncuffed, and rubbed her wrists where the metal had left red marks. Not deep enough to bruise badly, but visible. She committed the details to memory. Another piece of documentation. Another item for the record that would eventually matter when all of this came to light. The cell smelled of disinfectant and something else. Desperation, maybe. Fear absorbed into concrete over decades of people sitting exactly where she sat now, wondering how their lives had gone so wrong so fast. She checked her internal clock. 4:23 p.m. Booking had taken 24 minutes. Lloyd had said the public defender would arrive within 2 hours, which meant 6 p.m. at the earliest. Claudia would have gotten the message by now. Zoe was probably with a neighbor or still at school with staff confused and terrified and learning lessons no child should have to learn. Her niece's face kept replaying in her mind. The way Maya had screamed, the way she'd tried to run to Helena despite the uniforms blocking her path. 9 years old and discovering that authority didn't always mean safety, that rules didn't protect you when people had already decided who you were. Footsteps approached in the corridor, heavy boots against linoleum. Helena looked up as a figure appeared at the cell bars. Not Morales or Lloyd, but a different officer. Younger, muscular build. His nameplate read Garrett, and his eyes carried that particular energy Helena had seen before, the kind that came from someone who liked having power over people who couldn't fight back. He studied her through the bars. "So you're the one who thinks she can assault cops and walk away?" Helena didn't respond. She'd invoked her right to silence. Anything she said now could be twisted, used, weaponized. Garrett unlocked the cell door and stepped inside. "I asked you a question. I've invoked my right to remain silent until counsel is present." "That's cute." He moved closer, using his size to intimidate standing over her in a way that was designed to make her feel small. "You think lawyers are going to save you? You put your hands on Trudeau. That's a felony." "Brennan," Helena corrected automatically, "and I made no aggressive contact with Officer Brennan. The body camera footage will confirm that." Garrett laughed, and the sound was ugly. "Body cam? You know how many times body cam footage gets corrupted, equipment malfunctions, files accidentally deleted? Happens all the time." Helena's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice level. "Tampering with evidence is a federal crime." "Who said anything about tampering?" Garrett leaned against the wall, blocking the cell door. "I'm just saying technology fails. Meanwhile, you've got 2 officers who witnessed you get violent. Their word against yours. How do you think that plays out?" He was fishing, trying to provoke a reaction or get her to say something useful for their case. Helena met his gaze steadily. "I'm not having this conversation without legal representation." Garrett pushed off the wall, taking 2 steps closer. "Stand up when I'm talking to you." "I don't have to stand. I'm complying with all lawful orders. If you have a legitimate reason for me to stand, state it clearly." His face flushed. "I said stand up." Helena remained seated. This was a test. See if she'd comply with arbitrary commands, establish dominance, maybe provoke her into something they could call resisting. "Unless there's a security reason, I'm going to remain seated." "I'm not required to stand simply because you've given an order without legal basis." Garrett moved fast. He grabbed her upper arm, yanking her to her feet with unnecessary force. Helena's shoulder wrenched, not dislocated but painful, a sharp burst of heat that ran down her arm and into her fingers. She didn't pull away, didn't struggle, but she did speak clearly, projecting her voice toward the corridor where other cells might have occupants, where someone might be listening. "Officer Garrett is using excessive force. I am not resisting. There are visible marks on my arm where he grabbed me." "Shut up." Garrett's voice was a hiss near her ear. He shoved her back against the wall. Not hard enough to cause serious injury, but hard enough to hurt. Helena's back hit concrete, and the air rushed out of her lungs. She kept her hands visible at her sides, palms open. Every instinct screamed at her to defend herself, to use the training she had, the skills she'd learned over 2 decades. But that would only make things worse, give them exactly what they wanted. "I am not resisting. You are assaulting a compliant detainee. This interaction is being documented." "By who?" Garrett's face was inches from hers. "You think anyone cares what happens in here?" A voice came from the corridor, sharp and commanding. "I care." Garrett spun around. Lieutenant Grace Patterson stood outside the cell, her expression unreadable. She was in her late 40s, gray streaking through dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her uniform was crisp, her posture rigid, and her eyes carried the kind of authority that didn't need to be loud. Officer Garrett, step away from the detainee. Garrett released Helena and backed toward the cell door. Lieutenant, you were just leaving. Patterson's voice cut through his excuse like a blade. Report to Sergeant Lloyd. Tell him I want a copy of your service record on my desk in 10 minutes. Ma'am, this woman assaulted. Out now. Garrett left his boots heavy against the linoleum, his resentment radiating with every step. Patterson waited until the sound faded, then turned her attention to Helena. Mrs. Sinclair, are you injured? Helena rotated her shoulder, carefully testing the damage. Bruised, but nothing requiring medical attention. You want to file a complaint about Officer Garrett's conduct? Yes, but I'm waiting for legal counsel before making any formal statements. Patterson nodded slowly. Smart. She consulted a tablet she'd been carrying. I reviewed your booking information. You filed a Title VI complaint 3 weeks ago. Today, you were arrested at the location of that complaint. That's concerning timing. Helena said nothing, waiting to see where this was going. I also reviewed the dispatch log, Patterson continued. The 911 call came in at 15:10. You obtained your visitor permit at 15:07. Someone called police before verifying your authorization status. That suggests premeditation, Helena said carefully. That's one interpretation. Another is that security was being cautious. Cautious would be verifying first, then calling if there was an actual problem. Calling first suggests the goal wasn't verification. It was removal. Patterson's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but acknowledgement. You're very articulate for someone who works in public service. My job requires clear communication. I'm sure it does. Patterson made a note on her tablet. The public defender's office has been notified. Someone should be here by 6. Until then, you'll remain in this cell. I'm instructing all officers to observe through the window only. No one enters without my authorization. Thank you, Lieutenant. May I ask? Patterson tilted her head slightly. How did you know to come down here? Sergeant Lloyd flagged your booking as potentially complicated. When your name came through our system, it triggered some alerts. Helena's pulse quickened fractionally. Alerts. You've made an impression on people, Patterson said. I've tried to do my job ethically. Sometimes that creates friction. Clearly. Patterson closed her tablet. One more thing, Mrs. Sinclair. Whatever you're doing, whatever game you think you're playing, be careful. Not everyone on this force is interested in following the rules. I've noticed. Patterson left without another word. The cell door clanged shut, the lock engaging with mechanical finality. Helena sat back down on the bench, her shoulder throbbing where Garrett had grabbed her. She rolled it slowly, testing the range of motion. Painful, but functional. The encounter had confirmed something she'd suspected. There were fault lines in the department. Lloyd had flagged her case. Patterson had intervened. Not everyone was aligned with Brennan's approach. That meant leverage if she played this correctly. Voices drifted from another cell down the corridor. A woman crying softly. Another voice trying to comfort her. Helena wondered how many people sat in cells like this one, waiting for justice that moved too slowly, or never came at all. She leaned back against the cold concrete. Her body was tired, but her mind stayed sharp. Cataloging, documenting, building the case she'd present when the time came. Garrett's assault would be added to the list, the timing of the 911 call. Patterson's admission that the booking had triggered system alerts. Lloyd's careful documentation. Morales' reluctance to support Brennan's version. Each piece was small, but together they formed a pattern. And patterns were exactly what she needed. Footsteps approached again. Different rhythm this time. Lighter. A woman in a gray pantsuit appeared at the cell bars carrying a leather briefcase. Early 30s, sharp eyes, dark hair pulled into a professional twist. Mrs. Sinclair. Her voice was crisp, efficient. I'm Naomi Chen from the Public Defender's Office. I'm here to represent you. Helena stood moving to the bars. Thank you for coming. Chen pulled out a notepad. I've reviewed the preliminary charges, trespassing and battery on a peace officer. But Sergeant Lloyd's notes mention a prior Title VI complaint and some timeline discrepancies. Walk me through everything from the beginning. Helena took a breath. This was it. The moment to start building her defense to transform scattered pieces into a coherent narrative that would withstand scrutiny. 3 weeks ago, I filed a formal complaint with Oakmont School District regarding systematic harassment. 20 minutes later, they sat in the attorney consultation room, a windowless box with a metal table bolted to the floor and 2 plastic chairs. Chen had spread her notes across the Surface Pen, moving rapidly, recording device between them, capturing every word. "Let me make sure I understand the timeline," Chen said. "You arrived at Ridgemont Elementary at 2:52 p.m., went to the front office at 3. Mrs. Porter issued your visitor permit at 3:07. You returned to your car at 3:09. Officers arrived at 3:12. Helena nodded. "That's correct. But according to the dispatch log," Chen consulted her notes, "the 911 call came in at 3:10, which means someone reported you as an unauthorized individual before you'd even been back in your car for 60 seconds. Someone reported me before verifying whether I had authorization. That's not security protocol, that's targeting." Chen made a note. "Principal Kellerman claims security staff observed you in the lot earlier and had concerns before you obtained the permit." "I pulled into the lot at 2:52, Helena said. "I was inside the building obtaining authorization from 3 to 3:09. If security had concerns during those 9 minutes, they could have walked 20 feet to the front office and asked Mrs. Porter directly. Instead, they called 911, which suggests they weren't interested in verification. They were interested in creating a police presence." Chen leaned back, studying Helena carefully. "Mrs. Sinclair, I've been a public defender for 7 years. I've seen every kind of client. Most people in your situation are either scared, angry, or both. You're neither. You're methodical. Fear and anger cloud judgment. I need clarity right now." "That's the thing." Chen tapped her pen against her notepad. "You talk like someone who's been through legal proceedings before, not as a defendant, as someone who understands how cases are built." Helena met her gaze steadily. "I've had to learn. My job requires understanding process." "Public service," Chen said, letting it hang there for a moment. "All right, let's talk about the battery allegation. Officer Brennan claims you struck his hand when he attempted to secure your recording device. What actually happened?" Helena spoke precisely, each word chosen with care. "I activated my phone's voice recording app and placed it on my dashboard screen visible. Officer Brennan ordered me to turn it off. I informed him that recording a public official in a public space is legal. He reached through my open window toward my phone. I pulled the phone back toward my chest, away from his reach. Our hands may have brushed during that motion. Incidental contact, not aggressive. And there were witnesses. At least 15 parents. Several were recording on their own phones. Karen Rivera was particularly vocal in my defense. Ms. Ramirez, a teacher, also witnessed the interaction," Chen wrote quickly. "Those witnesses will be crucial. But here's the problem. Officer Morales' preliminary statement supports Brennan's version. She describes you as agitated and non-compliant. Officer Morales told Sergeant Fenton at the scene that she didn't observe me strike anyone. I heard her say it. Check the audio from his body cam." Chen's eyebrows rose. "You're confident the body cam will help your case?" "I'm confident it will show the truth," Helena said. "Brennan reached into my vehicle first. I withdrew. That's defensive action, not assault." "Okay." Chen made more notes. "Let's assume the body cam supports your version. That addresses the battery charge. But the trespassing is equally baseless," Helena interrupted. "I had written authorization. I provided documentation. I was in a designated visitor space. The only reason I was asked to leave was administrative error on the school's part. Error they refused to correct by simply checking their own records." Chen consulted another document. "Your Title VI complaint from 3 weeks ago. Tell me about that." Helena recounted the pattern methodically. Security guard Morrison stopping her repeatedly. Mr. Vincent's condescending questions at the parent-teacher conference, being directed to inferior parking spaces, the escalating scrutiny despite 6 months of authorized pickups. "And you documented all of this?" Chen asked. "Dates, times, names. I submitted a formal complaint via certified mail. Tracking shows it was signed for by the superintendent's office on October 3rd. That's unusually thorough documentation for a routine complaint. I believe in having evidence to support claims, Helena said simply. Chen made more notes, then looked up. Here's what I'm seeing. Strong timeline evidence suggesting premeditation. Multiple witnesses to the actual incident. A prior complaint establishing a pattern of harassment. And body cam footage that should contradict the officer's statements. So what's the problem? The problem is politics, Chen said. The school district has influence. The police union will protect its officers, and you forgive me for being blunt, a single black woman going up against institutional power. Even with good evidence, this could get ugly. It's already ugly. My 9-year-old niece watched me get arrested. She's traumatized. Chen's expression softened. I understand, and we will fight this. But I need you to understand the stakes. They're going to come at you hard. Background checks, character assassination. They'll look for anything to discredit you. Let them look, Helena said. I have nothing to hide. Everyone has something, Chen replied. The question is whether it's relevant. A knock interrupted them. Sergeant Lloyd appeared in the doorway. Miss Chen, we've pulled the body cam footage. It's available for review if you'd like to see it before arraignment. Chen stood immediately. Absolutely. Mrs. Sinclair, I'll be back in 30 minutes. After she left, Helena sat alone in the consultation room. The walls were thin enough to hear activity in the corridor. Officers talking, phones ringing, the constant hum of bureaucratic machinery, processing human lives through systems designed more for efficiency than justice. She closed her eyes, replaying the parking lot confrontation in her mind. Every word, every movement, the placement of witnesses, the angle of Brennan's body cam when he'd reached for her phone. If she was right about the camera angle, the footage would show his arm extending into her vehicle first, would show her pulling back, would prove she'd made no aggressive contact. If she was wrong, if the angle had been obscured, or if the footage had been edited, this became much harder. But she had to trust the process, trust that evidence would speak louder than lies. 23 years had taught her that truth mattered. It didn't always win immediately. Sometimes it took time. Sometimes it required patience and precise documentation and refusing to give up. But it mattered. Footsteps approached. Chen returned her expression carefully neutral. She sat down across from Helena and folded her hands on the table. I reviewed the body cam footage from both Brennan and Morales, all 14 minutes and 37 seconds. Helena waited, reading Chen's face for signals. It's good for us, Chen said finally. Very good. The camera clearly shows Brennan reaching into your vehicle, shows you pulling your phone away. At no point does your hand make aggressive contact with him. It's textbook defensive withdrawal. Relief flooded through Helena, but she kept her voice steady. So the battery charge should be dropped. Should be, Chen agreed. But there's something else, something unusual. Unusual how? Chen pulled out her tablet, calling up notes. The timestamp on Brennan's body cam shows 15:17:43 when he reaches for your phone. The timestamp on his incident report, the one claiming you struck him, lists the assault at 15:18:12, 29 seconds later. So there's a discrepancy. More than a discrepancy, Chen said. The body cam shows the entire interaction lasting 17 seconds total. From initial reach to you stating, I did not strike you, takes exactly 17 seconds. There's no 29-second gap where an assault could have occurred. Helena leaned forward. Someone altered the timeline in the report. Or made a mistake transcribing, Chen said carefully. But combined with everything else, the 911 call coming before verification, the prior Title VI complaint, the witness statements contradicting the officers, it suggests a pattern. A pattern of what? Chen met her eyes. Of people trying very hard to make a narrative fit facts that don't support it. Helena sat back. The pieces were falling into place. The fabricated timeline, the preemptive 911 call, the coordinated response between school administration and police. This wasn't incompetence. This was deliberate. What happens now? Helena asked. We file a motion to dismiss at arraignment. With this evidence, any reasonable judge should throw it out. The question is whether we get a reasonable judge. And if we don't, Chen's expression hardened, then we prepare for trial and make them prove their case, which they can't because the evidence doesn't exist, but it means more time, more money if you want private counsel instead of me, more exposure for your family. Maya, Helena said quietly. My niece. She can't go through months of this. I know. Chen's voice softened. But sometimes the system makes victims fight for vindication, even when they shouldn't have to. That's the reality we're working with. Helena looked at her hands. The red marks from the handcuffs were fading, but still visible. Physical evidence of an injustice that would take weeks or months to remedy through proper channels. Meanwhile, Brennan would go home tonight. Kellerman would sleep in her own bed. And Maya would wake up from nightmares about police taking her aunt away. How long until arraignment? Helena asked. Monday morning. We'll request release on own recognizance. No criminal history, strong community ties, you're not a flight risk. Judge should grant it. Should, Chen confirmed. But I've learned not to make promises about what judges will do, especially when police unions and school districts are involved. A different officer appeared at the door, younger, female. Her nameplate read Williams. Mrs. Sinclair, your bail's been set. Someone posted it. Helena's head snapped up. What who? Attorney named Marcus Webb says he's a colleague. Paperwork's being processed now. Chen and Helena exchanged glances. Marcus Webb was an assistant district attorney. Junior, fresh out of law school, the kind who usually handled traffic violations and minor misdemeanors. Why would he post bail for someone arrested on charges his office might prosecute, unless he knew something, unless someone had told him something? How long until I can leave? Helena asked. 20 minutes for processing. You'll get your property back, sign some forms. Then you're free to go until arraignment Monday at 9 a.m. After Williams left, Chen leaned forward. Do you know Marcus Webb? No, Helena said. But I'd very much like to ask him why he just posted bail for a stranger. 23 minutes later, Helena walked out of the holding area into the station's public lobby. Her phone felt heavy in her pocket, her purse strap strange against her shoulder after hours without it. The fluorescent lights seemed too bright after the dimness of the cell. Marcus Webb stood near the front desk, nervous energy radiating from his slight frame. He was maybe 28, with dark curly hair and glasses that kept sliding down his nose. When he saw Helena, he pushed them up and approached carefully. Mrs. Sinclair, I'm Marcus Webb. I work for the DA's office, but I'm here in a personal capacity. Can we talk outside? Helena studied him for a long moment, then nodded. They walked out into the evening air, the sun setting in shades of orange and purple that seemed obscene given what had happened that afternoon. Webb led her to a bench away from the station entrance. I saw your booking come through. I saw the charges, and I saw something else in the system, something that made me realize this arrest was a mistake. What did you see? Webb glanced around, making sure no one was close enough to overhear. Your name triggered a flag, a red banner that comes up when certain individuals are entered into booking. It's reserved for people with security clearances, undercover officers, federal witnesses, people who need special handling. Helena's expression didn't change. Why would my name trigger that? Because the system recognized you, Webb said quietly. Judge Sinclair. The words hung between them. Helena had known this moment would come, had planned for it, but hearing someone else say it still carried weight. How long have you known? She asked. Since about 5 p.m. I ran your name through our internal database after seeing the flag. Your employment history came up. Circuit Court Judge 9th District, 23 years on the bench. Webb pushed his glasses up again. Judge Sinclair, I don't know what happened today, but I know that arresting a sitting judge on false charges is a career-ending mistake for everyone involved. I posted your bail because I wanted to tell you something before you walk into that courthouse Monday. Tell me what... There are people in the DA's office who are going to want to bury this, make it go away quietly. Offer you a dismissal in exchange for not pursuing civil action. But there are also people who are going to want to prosecute because admitting they arrested a judge on fabricated charges would destroy their credibility. Helena absorbed this. "Which side are you on?" "The side that wants the truth," Webb said. "I became a prosecutor because I believe in justice. What happened to you today wasn't justice. It was abuse of power. And if it happened to a judge with resources and knowledge, imagine what happens to people without those advantages." "I don't have to imagine," Helena said quietly. "I've spent 23 years watching it happen." Webb nodded. "Then you know what's at stake here. This isn't just about you. It's about every person who gets arrested on pretextual charges because someone decided they don't belong somewhere." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I think you're going to fight this," Webb said. "And when you do, you need to know that not everyone in the system is against you. Some of us want accountability. Some of us are tired of watching officers lie on reports and get away with it." Helena stood. "Thank you for posting bail, and for the information." "One more thing," Webb said. "The body cam footage hasn't been officially logged yet. It's in the system, but it hasn't been transferred to the DA's office for review. If someone wanted to, they could claim it was corrupted or lost before it gets entered into evidence." "Are you saying someone might tamper with it?" "I'm saying it would be very convenient for certain people if that footage disappeared. You might want to have your attorney make sure it's preserved." Helena pulled out her phone and immediately texted Chen. "Evidence preservation, body cam footage, potential tampering risk, need emergency motion." Webb started to walk away, then turned back. "Judge Sinclair, I grew up in a neighborhood where police harassment was normal, where my brothers got stopped for walking to school, where my mother got arrested for parking legally because the officer didn't believe she could afford the car she was driving. I see my family in your case. That's why I'm helping." "Then help me find out who made that 911 call," Helena said, "because someone knew I'd be there. Someone was waiting." Webb nodded slowly. "I'll see what I can find." Helena watched him disappear into the evening, then called Claudia. Her sister answered on the first ring. "Helena, oh my God, are you okay?" "They called from the hospital. I came out of surgery and Maya was hysterical and they said you'd been arrested and—" "I'm fine," Helena interrupted gently. "I'm out. Where's Maya?" "With Mrs. Chen from 4B. Hell, what happened?" Helena closed her eyes. "Can we talk when I get home? I need to see Maya first. Is she okay?" "No," Claudia said bluntly. "She cried for 2 hours. She thinks the police are going to come back and take you again. She thinks you're going to disappear." "I'm coming now. 20 minutes." Helena ended the call and stood on the sidewalk outside the police station where she'd been processed like a criminal. Her car was still at the school. She'd have to take a rideshare home, another indignity, another reminder that this wasn't over. Her phone buzzed. Chen. "Emergency motion filed. Judge ordered preservation of all evidence pending Monday hearing. Also got copy of 911 call audio. You need to hear this." Helena called her back. "What's on it?" "Principal Kellerman made the call," Chen said. "But here's the thing. She doesn't sound concerned. She sounds satisfied, like she's reporting something she expected to happen, not something that surprised her." "Can you send me the audio?" "Sending now." "But Helena, this is premeditation, clear as day. Someone set you up." The audio file came through. Helena pressed play, listening to Kellerman's voice. "Oakmont County 911, what's your emergency?" "This is Principal Diane Kellerman at Ridgemont Elementary. We have an unauthorized individual in our visitor parking lot who's refusing to leave." "Is the individual threatening anyone?" "Not explicitly, but she has a confrontational demeanor and we've had issues with her before." Helena's jaw tightened. "Issues with her before?" That phrasing was careful, calculated, designed to make her sound like a problem without saying anything actionable. The dispatcher asked more questions. Kellerman answered with the same measured tone. Professional, concerned, lying with every word. Helena saved the audio and started walking. She had 48 hours until arraignment. 48 hours to build her case, to gather witnesses, to prepare for the moment when she would walk into that courtroom and show them exactly who they'd arrested. But first, she had to go home and tell a 9-year-old that sometimes the world wasn't fair, but that didn't mean you stopped fighting. Sometimes that was the hardest part of all. The rideshare dropped Helena outside her apartment complex at 6:47 p.m. The building looked the same as it had that morning, brick facade, neat landscaping, the familiar security gate, but everything felt different now, like she was seeing it through glass, separated from the normal world by what had happened in that parking lot. She climbed the stairs to the 4th floor, her shoulders still aching from where Garrett had grabbed her. Each step felt heavier than the last, not from physical exhaustion, but from the weight of what she was about to do. How do you tell a 9-year-old that the world isn't safe, that the people who are supposed to protect you sometimes hurt you instead? Mrs. Chen from 4B opened the door before Helena could knock. The elderly woman's face was drawn with worry, her usual cheerful demeanor replaced by something that looked like grief. "She's in Claudia's bedroom," Mrs. Chen said quietly. "Won't come out, won't eat, just keeps asking when you're coming home." "Thank you for staying with her." Mrs. Chen gripped Helena's arm. "What they did to you today, my grandson went through something similar. Different city, same story. They see what they want to see." Her eyes were fierce. "You fight this. You hear me. You fight." Helena nodded, unable to speak past the sudden tightness in her throat. Claudia appeared in the hallway, still in her scrubs, her eyes red from crying. She pulled Helena into a tight embrace without saying anything, and for a moment, they just stood there, 2 sisters holding on to each other in the face of something neither could control. "She won't talk to me," Claudia whispered. "She just keeps crying and asking if they're going to take you away forever." Helena pulled back. "Let me try." She walked down the hallway to Claudia's bedroom. The door was closed. Helena knocked softly. "Maya." "Baby girl, it's Aunt Helena. Can I come in?" Silence. "Please, sweetheart. I need to see that you're okay." More silence, and then a small voice thick with tears. "You left me." The words hit Helena like a physical blow. "I know. I'm so sorry." "You promised you'd take me for ice cream. You promised you'd help with my homework. You promised—" The voice broke into sobs. Helena opened the door slowly. Maya was curled up on Claudia's bed, surrounded by stuffed animals, her face swollen from crying. When she saw Helena, something between relief and anger flashed across her features. "You left me there," Maya said again. "They took you away and you didn't fight. You just let them." Helena sat on the edge of the bed, moving carefully, giving Maya space. "I know it looked like that, but I couldn't fight baby. If I had, they would have hurt me worse." "But you didn't do anything wrong. Ms. Ramirez said you didn't do anything wrong." "You're right, I didn't." "Then why did they arrest you?" Maya's voice rose, all the confusion and fear of the afternoon pouring out. "Why did Officer Brennan say you hit him when you didn't? Why did Principal Kellerman call the police when you had the permit? Why does everyone lie?" Helena felt tears threatening but pushed them back. Maya needed her to be strong right now. Because sometimes people in power use that power the wrong way, and sometimes they lie to justify what they did. That's not fair. "No, it's not." "So what do we do?" Maya sat up, wiping her eyes. "Do we just let them lie?" "No," Helena said firmly. "We don't. We fight back with the truth. We document what happened. We get witnesses to speak up. We use the law to hold people accountable." "But you're a judge. You know the law better than anyone, and they still arrested you." The observation was devastatingly accurate. Helena reached out and took Maya's hand. "You're right. I do know the law, and that's exactly why they're going to regret what they did today." Something shifted in Maya's expression. The fear was still there, but underneath it, something else. Curiosity. Hope, maybe. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to make sure everyone knows what happened. I'm going to make sure Officer Brennan and Principal Kellerman have to answer for their actions. And I'm going to do it the right way through the courts, so that other people who go through this have a path to follow." "Will they go to jail?" "I don't know," Helena said honestly. "But they'll face consequences. That's what matters." Maya was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then she said in a small voice, "I was so scared. When I saw you with your hands up and the police yelling, I thought they were going to shoot you, like on the news." Helena's heart broke. "Oh, baby, come here." She pulled Maya into her arms, and the girl collapsed against her, sobbing again. Helena held her tight, rocking slightly the way she had when Maya was small and afraid of thunderstorms. "I'm here," Helena whispered. "I'm safe. They didn't hurt me. I'm right here. Promise you won't leave again." Helena wanted to promise, wanted to say that everything would be fine, that nothing like this would ever happen again, but she couldn't lie. "I promise I will do everything in my power to stay with you. But Maya, you need to understand something. This isn't over. There's going to be a hearing on Monday. There might be news cameras. People are going to talk about what happened. It might get harder before it gets better." Maya pulled back, looking up at her aunt with those serious eyes that sometimes seemed too old for her face. "Will you be scared?" "Probably a little," Helena admitted. "But I'll do it anyway. Because fear doesn't mean you stop. It just means you have to be brave. Like you were today." "I wasn't brave today, sweetie. I was terrified. But I stayed calm because I knew people were watching, and I knew I needed to show that I wasn't doing anything wrong." "That's brave," Maya said firmly. "Ms. Ramirez said so. She told me you were the bravest person she'd ever seen." Helena felt something warm bloom in her chest. "Ms. Ramirez said that—" Maya nodded. "Before Mom came to get me, she said you were teaching everyone a lesson about dignity. I didn't understand what she meant." Dignity means remembering who you are, even when other people try to make you feel small. It means not letting anger or fear control you. "Is that why you didn't cry?" "That's why I didn't cry." Maya thought about this, then nodded slowly. "Okay, I understand now." She paused. "Can we still get ice cream sometime when this is over?" Helena laughed, and it felt good. "Absolutely. Double scoops. With sprinkles, with whatever you want." They sat together for a while longer, not talking, just being present. Eventually, Maya's breathing evened out, and she fell asleep against Helena's shoulder, exhausted from crying. Helena shifted her carefully onto the bed and pulled a blanket over her. Claudia was waiting in the kitchen, nursing a glass of wine. She poured a second glass and pushed it across the counter to Helena without asking. "She okay?" Claudia asked. "She will be, eventually." Helena took a long drink. "I'm sorry, Claude. I'm so sorry she had to see that." "Stop apologizing. You didn't do anything wrong." "I know, but—" "No buts." Claudia's voice was fierce. "You were picking up my daughter, doing me a favor, following every rule, and they arrested you anyway because of some racist, power-hungry—" She stopped, took a breath. "Tell me what happens now." Helena filled her in. "The charges, the body cam evidence, the timeline discrepancies, Marcus Webb's unexpected help, the hearing scheduled for Monday morning." "So they arrested a judge," Claudia said slowly. "Do they know? One person does, Webb, but it'll come out at the hearing. And when it does, everything changes." Claudia shook her head. "Hell, you should have told them at the scene. You should have pulled rank and made them back down." "No," Helena said firmly, "because then it would be about me being a judge, about them making a mistake with the wrong person. I need it to be about the fact that what they did was wrong regardless of who I am. That's the only way anything changes. But you're going to use your position eventually. When the time is right, when it will have maximum impact." Claudia studied her sister. "You planned this. From the moment Brennan approached your car, you knew what you were doing." "Not planned. But I recognize the pattern. I've seen too many cases exactly like this one cross my bench. Black man arrested for waiting for his wife outside a store. Hispanic woman arrested for speaking Spanish in a park. Asian man arrested for taking photos of his own children. Same story every time police called by someone who decided they didn't belong. Charges that don't hold up, cases dismissed. But nothing ever changes because the people arrested don't have the resources to fight back properly." "So you're making yourself the test case." "I'm documenting what happens when someone does everything right and it's still not enough." Claudia was quiet for a long moment. "You could have been killed, hell. You know that, right? All it would have taken was one wrong move, one moment of Brennan deciding you were a threat." "I know. But you stayed calm anyway for Maya, for the record, for some future case that might matter." "For all of it," Helena said. "And because I was raised to believe the system works, I wanted to prove it still does." Does it? Helena thought about Lloyd flagging her case, Patterson intervening with Garrett, Morales' reluctance to support Brennan's lies, Webb posting bail and warning her about evidence tampering. Sometimes, when good people choose to do the right thing. Her phone buzzed. Text from Chen. Emergency motion granted. All body cam footage preserved and copied to independent server. Also got witness list from school. 15 parents willing to testify. Karen Rivera is on a mission. Helena smiled despite everything. The witnesses are coming forward. That's good, right? That's very good. It means people saw what happened and they're willing to say so publicly. Another text, this one from a number she didn't recognize. Judge Sinclair, this is Helena Ramirez, Maya's teacher. I need to talk to you about what happened today. I recorded part of it on my phone before Kellerman saw me. Call me when you can. Helena's pulse quickened. Video evidence from a teacher. Someone who could speak to the pattern of harassment. Someone whose testimony would carry weight. She called immediately. Ramirez answered on the first ring. Judge Sinclair. The teacher's voice was shaky. I'm so sorry about what happened. I tried to tell Principal Kellerman that you were authorized, but she threatened my job. I heard that, Helena said. I appreciate you trying to intervene. That's not why I'm calling. I recorded video, not the whole thing, but the part where Officer Brennan reached into your car. It's clear on my phone that you pulled away defensively. I wanted you to know that evidence exists. That's incredibly helpful. Would you be willing to provide that video to my attorney? A long pause. If I do this, I'll lose my job. Kellerman made that clear. My contract is up for renewal in June. I understand. I can't tell you what to do. But I can't stay quiet. Ramirez continued, her voice gaining strength. I've watched Kellerman target minority parents for 2 years. I've watched security guard Morrison stop Black and Hispanic visitors while waving white parents through. I filed internal complaints that went nowhere, and today I watched it escalate to an arrest that never should have happened. If I don't speak up now, when do I? Ms. Ramirez, if you testify, there will be consequences. Kellerman will make things difficult. The school board might not renew your contract. You could face professional retaliation. I know, but I became a teacher because I believe in doing what's right. Teaching kids that integrity matters. How can I do that if I don't show them what integrity looks like when it's hard? Helena felt a surge of respect for this woman she barely knew. Send the video to my attorney. Her contact information is Naomi Chen, Public Defender's Office. And Ms. Ramirez, thank you. What you're doing matters. Tell Maya I'm thinking about her. She was so scared today. I will. After hanging up, Helena forwarded Chen's information to Ramirez, then sat back and closed her eyes. The pieces were assembling. Body cam footage, witness testimony, video from a teacher, audio of Kellerman's 911 call, timeline discrepancies, the Title VI complaint, establishing pattern and motive. This wasn't just about getting the charges dismissed anymore. This was building into something bigger. Her phone rang. Unknown number again. She answered cautiously. Hello? Judge Sinclair, this is Detective Anna Reyes from Internal Affairs. The voice was professional, measured. I need to speak with you about your arrest. Can you come to the station tomorrow morning? Am I required to? No, but I think you'll want to hear what I've found. Which is, not over the phone. Can you be here at 8 a.m.? Helena considered. Internal Affairs investigating meant someone had taken this seriously. Someone inside the department was looking at Brennan's actions. I'll be there. Good. And Judge, bring your attorney. You're going to want witness to this conversation. The call ended before Helena could ask what that meant. Claudia had been listening. Internal Affairs. Apparently someone's investigating. That's good, right? Maybe. Or maybe they're trying to control the narrative before Monday's hearing. Helena's phone buzzed again. This time it was Webb. Judge Sinclair found something. The 911 call wasn't the first contact between Ridgemont and police. There were 3 calls in the past month from Kellerman about suspicious individuals in the school lot. All were minority visitors. All had valid permits. All were cleared without incident. Establishing pattern of false reports. Can we meet? Helena typed back. Tomorrow after IA meeting. 9:30. I'll be there. She looked up at Claudia. This is getting bigger. How big? Big enough that people are scared. Webb is risking his career. Ramirez is risking her job. That detective called me outside normal channels. They're all breaking protocol because they know something's wrong. Or because they know who you are now, Claudia pointed out. Webb figured it out. Maybe others did too. Maybe. But I don't think that's all of it. I think there are people in these institutions who are tired of watching the same thing happen over and over, and they see this as an opportunity to finally do something about it. Claudia refilled their wine glasses. So what's your play? Monday morning. I walk into that courtroom. The prosecutor, probably someone senior this time, not Webb, will try to argue the charges have merit. Chen will present our evidence, and then the judge will ask me routine questions. And when he asks my occupation, I tell him the truth. You're going to let them walk right into it. I'm going to let them hang themselves with their own rope, Helena corrected. Because once they know they arrested a sitting judge on false charges, they can't quietly make this go away. It becomes a matter of public record. Media will cover it. Other cases will be reviewed. The whole system gets scrutinized. You're using yourself as bait. I'm using my position as leverage for everyone who doesn't have one. Claudia shook her head slowly. You know, Maya asked me something tonight before you got home. What? She asked if you were still going to be a judge after this, if they could take that away from you. Helena's jaw tightened. What did you tell her? I told her that nobody could take away who you are. That judge isn't just your job, it's who you've been your entire life. Someone who believes in justice, even when justice is hard. That's a lot of faith to put on someone who just got arrested. You earned that faith over 23 years. Claudia reached across and gripped Helena's hand. But Hel, promise me something. Promise me that when this is over, you'll take time to process what happened. You can't just bury this and move on. You were traumatized today, too. I'm fine. You're not fine. You got arrested in front of your niece. You were handcuffed and processed and thrown in a cell. You were assaulted by that officer. That leaves marks even if you're too strong to show them right now. Helena wanted to argue, but Claudia's expression stopped her. Okay, when this is over, I'll talk to someone. Good. Because Maya needs you whole, not just strong. They sat together in the kitchen as evening turned to night. Through the window, the city lights flickered. Somewhere out there, Brennan was probably at home, maybe worried, maybe not. Kellerman was probably drafting statements to protect herself. Lansing was probably coordinating with lawyers, all of them scrambling to manage a situation that was spiraling beyond their control. And somewhere in holding cells and courtrooms and police stations across the country, other people were going through their own versions of what Helena had experienced. Most of them without her resources. Most of them without her knowledge of how to fight back. Most of them facing a system designed to grind them down rather than lift them up. Helena thought about the woman she'd heard crying in another cell, wondered what her story was, whether she'd had documentation, whether anyone would believe her when she said she hadn't done anything wrong. That's who this was really for. Not for Helena. She'd be fine. Her charges would be dismissed. Her reputation would survive. But what about everyone else? Her phone buzzed one more time, text from a blocked number. No words, just an image. A photograph of Helena's car taken from a distance, still parked at Ridgemont Elementary. And below it, a single line. Some stones are better left unturned. Helena's blood went cold. Someone had been watching. Was still watching. Someone who knew where her car was, who had her phone number, who wanted her to know they were paying attention. She showed the text to Claudia, whose face paled. Hell, that's a threat. It's a warning. Same thing. You need to tell someone. I will. Tomorrow when I meet with Reyes. Helena saved the image and blocked the number knowing it wouldn't matter. Whoever sent it could send another from a different phone. This confirms what I already suspected, which is that this goes higher than Brennan and Kellerman. Someone with resources is involved. Someone who can track my car, get my phone number, coordinate surveillance. The school board member, Lansing. Maybe. Or maybe someone above him. Claudia stood up, started pacing. This is insane. You're talking about some kind of conspiracy. I'm talking about people who've been getting away with discrimination for years and don't want that to change. When you're used to privilege, equality feels like oppression. So what do you do? Helena looked at the photo again. Her car sitting in that parking lot where this all started. Empty now. Abandoned. Like they wanted to remind her of what they could do, where they could reach her. I don't get intimidated, she said finally. I document everything. I forward this to Chen and Reyes and Webb. I make sure there's a record. And then I show up Monday morning and I tell the truth. Even though someone's threatening you, especially because someone's threatening me, because that means they're scared, and people only threaten when they know they're losing. Claudia stopped pacing and looked at her sister, really looked at her. When did you get so brave? The day I decided that changing the system mattered more than protecting myself from it. Helena stood wincing as her shoulder protested. I'm going to get some sleep. Long day tomorrow. Hell, one more thing. Yeah, I'm proud of you. What you're doing, it's bigger than us, bigger than Maya. But it started because you wanted to pick up your niece from school. Don't forget that. This is personal and political. Don't lose sight of either one. Helena hugged her sister tight. I won't. In Claudia's bedroom, Maya was still sleeping, curled around her stuffed elephant. Helena watched her for a moment, this child who'd been forced to grow up a little today, who'd learned that safety was conditional, that authority could hurt you, but who'd also learned that you fight back, that you don't let fear win. Helena pulled out her notebook and started writing. Every detail from the day, every conversation, every moment, the documentation that would become evidence, that would become testimony, that would become the foundation of whatever came next. At 11:30 p.m., she finally stopped writing and closed the notebook. Her hand was cramped, her shoulder ached, her head throbbed from tension she'd been holding for 8 hours. But she felt clear, focused, ready. Monday morning was 40 hours away, 40 hours to prepare, 40 hours for the other side to make mistakes, 40 hours for the truth to gather momentum. She lay down on the couch, pulling a blanket over herself. Sleep would be hard, probably impossible. Her mind was racing with everything that needed to happen, everyone she needed to talk to, every move she needed to plan. But at some point, exhaustion won. Helena drifted off with her phone in her hand and her notebook on her chest, ready to document whatever came next. Because this wasn't over, not even close. This was just the beginning. Helena woke at 5:30 a.m. to her phone buzzing against her chest. For a disorienting moment, she forgot where she was, why her shoulder ached, why her wrists were sore. Then it all came flooding back. The parking lot, the handcuffs, Maya's terrified face. The text was from Chen. Media got wind of the story. Channel 7 called asking about a judge being arrested at Ridgemont. Someone leaked it. Call me ASAP. Helena sat up, her heart pounding. She'd known this would come out eventually, but she'd wanted to control when and how. Now that choice was being taken away. She called Chen, who answered immediately. How bad is it? Local news for now, Chen said. But they're digging. Called the school district for comment. Called the police department. Someone's going to connect the dots by Monday if we don't get ahead of it. Let them connect the dots. We have nothing to hide. That. Helena, once this becomes a media circus, everything changes. The DA will feel pressure to prosecute rather than dismiss. The school board will lawyer up. Witnesses might get scared and recant. We need to be strategic. Helena walked to the kitchen, keeping her voice low so she wouldn't wake Maya or Claudia. What do you suggest? We give a statement, controlled, on our terms, before they create the narrative for us. No, not yet. Why not? Because the moment I speak publicly as Judge Sinclair, this becomes about me. About whether a judge deserves special treatment. I need it to stay about the pattern of discrimination until we're in that courtroom Monday morning. Chen was quiet for a moment. You're using the media attention as leverage. I'm using everything as leverage. How long until the story runs? 6 p.m. news cycle. Maybe earlier if they get confirmation. Helena checked the time. 6:14 a.m. That gives us 11 hours. Enough time for the IA meeting and to meet with Webb. By tonight, we'll have more evidence to support our case when it breaks. You're playing a dangerous game. I'm playing the only game that matters. Trust me. After hanging up, Helena showered and changed into clothes Claudia had brought from her apartment the night before. Professional, but not too formal. A navy blazer, simple white shirt, dark pants. The uniform of someone who knew how to navigate systems without announcing it. Maya appeared in the doorway as Helena was tying her shoes. The girl's eyes were puffy from crying, but she was dressed for school backpack already on. "You're going to that meeting," Maya said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, with my attorney and the detective." "And then you're going to court on Monday." "That's right." Maya sat down next to her on the couch. "Ms. Ramirez texted Mom last night. She said she's going to testify even if Principal Kellerman fires her." Helena's throat tightened. "That's very brave of her. She said she's doing it for me, because kids need to see adults stand up for what's right." Maya looked up at her aunt. "Is that why you're doing this? For kids like me?" "I'm doing it for everyone like you, baby, and for everyone who comes after you." "Will it work?" Helena wished she could promise it would. Instead, she said, "I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it does." Maya nodded, satisfied with the honesty. "Can I go to school today? Mom wants me to stay home, but I don't want to hide." "That's up to your mom." "But what do you think?" Helena considered. Part of her wanted Maya safe at home, away from questions and whispers, but another part recognized that hiding sent its own message. "I think if you feel strong enough to go, you should go. But if it gets hard, you call your mom and she'll come get you. Deal?" "Deal." Claudia drove them both, dropping Maya at school first. Helena watched her niece walk through those doors with her head-high backpack bouncing and felt a fierce pride that temporarily overwhelmed everything else. "She's stronger than I was at that age," Claudia said quietly. "She's stronger than most people at any age." They drove to the police station in silence. Chen was waiting outside, her expression tight. "Webb just called. He's been pulled from meeting with us. His supervisor found out he posted your bail and reassigned him." "Reassigned to what?" "Traffic court, as far from this case as possible." Helena's jaw tightened. "They're trying to isolate anyone who might help us. Or they're trying to contain the damage before Monday. Either way, we're on our own with Reyes." Detective Anna Reyes met them in a conference room on the third floor away from the main booking area. She was younger than Helena expected, maybe late 30s, with sharp eyes that took in everything. A laptop sat open on the table, along with several thick folders. "Judge Sinclair," Reyes said, shaking her hand. "Thank you for coming. Miss Chen, please sit." They sat. Reyes closed the door and locked it, then pulled down the window blinds. The gesture was deliberate, creating privacy that felt both protective and ominous. "What I'm about to show you doesn't leave this room until after your hearing Monday," Reyes said. "If word gets out that IA is this far along in our investigation, evidence could disappear. People could coordinate stories. You understand?" "We understand," Helena said. Reyes opened the laptop and turned it to face them. "I've been investigating patterns of discriminatory policing in this district for 8 months. Your arrest triggered something I'd been watching for." She pulled up a spreadsheet, rows and rows of data. Names, dates, locations, charges, outcomes. In the past 2 years, there have been 47 arrests within a 1-mile radius of Ridgemont Elementary. 47. Reyes let that number hang. All for trespassing or disorderly conduct. All involving school property or the surrounding area. Want to guess the demographic breakdown? Helena's stomach sank. All minorities. 47 arrests. 43 were Black or Hispanic. 3 were Asian. 1 was Middle Eastern. 0 white arrestees, despite the neighborhood being 73% white. Chen leaned forward. And the outcomes? 43 cases dismissed. 2 pled down to time served. 2 are still pending. Not a single case went to trial because not a single case had sufficient evidence to prosecute. "So this is systematic," Helena said. "Systematic doesn't begin to cover it." Reyes pulled up another document. I pulled emails between Principal Kellerman and various officers over 18 months. 49 communications using coded language. Individual of interest. Suspicious behavior. Previous concerns. Every single one resulted in a police response. Every single one involved a person of color. She clicked to a specific email. October 8th, 2 weeks before Helena's arrest. Kellerman to Lansing, the school board member. The Title VI complaint subject returned today. Should we coordinate response protocols? Lansing's reply came the next day. Monitor closely. Engage PD if situation escalates. Document everything for legal defense. They knew, Chen breathed. They knew you'd filed a complaint and they were planning how to respond. It gets worse, Reyes said. She pulled up another email dated October 15th, 6 days before the arrest. Kellerman to an address that had been partially redacted. Target confirmed for Wednesday pickup. Usual protocol. The reply was a single word. Confirmed. Helena felt cold. Someone was coordinating this. Someone above Kellerman. The email address is blocked in our system, Reyes said. Redacted under what's classified as administrative privilege. I don't have clearance to see who it belongs to. Who does have that clearance? Chen asked. Superintendent, chief of police, maybe the mayor's office. Reyes closed that file and opened another. But here's what I do know. The phone number that received Mrs. Porter's call about you arriving, I traced it. Burner phone purchased 3 weeks ago at a convenience store in the next county. Cash transaction, no security footage. Whoever received that call didn't want to be identified. Helena processed this. So this wasn't just about harassing me. This was a coordinated operation. With multiple levels of command involved, Reyes confirmed. And when you were arrested, something interesting happened. Your booking triggered that red flag. The system recognized you as a protected individual. That flag is supposed to alert supervisors immediately so appropriate protocols can be followed. But nobody told Brennan, Helena said. Nobody told anyone. The flag was manually overridden within 90 seconds. Someone with administrative access saw your name, saw the alert, and shut it down. Chen's pen had stopped moving. You're saying someone in the police department actively covered up the fact that they'd arrested a judge. I'm saying someone tried to. The flag leaves a trail even when it's overridden. That's how I found it. Reyes pulled up one more document, a personnel file. Officer Kyle Brennan has been flagged by IA 3 times in the past 2 years. 2 excessive force complaints, 1 allegation of racial profiling. All 3 complaints were dismissed after review by his supervisor. Who's his supervisor? Helena asked, though she suspected she knew. Sergeant Marcus Fenton, the same officer who'd arrived as backup, who'd questioned Helena at the scene, who'd let Brennan's version of events stand despite obvious contradictions. Fenton's been Brennan's training officer and direct supervisor for 4 years, Reyes continued. Every complaint against Brennan crossed Fenton's desk, every body cam review, every use of force report. Fenton signed off on all of it. So we have a pattern of protected misconduct, Chen said. Brennan does something questionable. Fenton covers it up. The system reinforces itself. Until someone with resources and knowledge pushes back, Reyes said, looking at Helena. You're that someone. But Judge, you need to understand what you're up against. This isn't just about one bad arrest. This is about people who've built careers on a system that works for them. They're not going to let it go without a fight. Good, Helena said, because neither am I. Reyes studied her for a long moment. I believe you. That's why I'm showing you this. That's why I'm willing to testify Monday if your attorney subpoenas me. You'd testify against your own department. I'd testify for the truth. There's a difference. Reyes closed the laptop. I joined IA because I believe good cops deserve protection from bad ones. Because I believe the system can be better than this. But it only gets better when people speak up. She pulled out a flash drive and handed it to Chen. This is everything I just showed you, plus body cam compilations from other questionable arrests at Ridgemont. The original files are backed up in 3 separate locations, so if something happens to this copy, there are others. Why are you doing this? Helena asked quietly. Reyes met her eyes. Because my brother was arrested when he was 16 for looking suspicious in his own neighborhood. The charges were dropped, but the arrest stayed on his record. He couldn't get into his first-choice college, couldn't get certain jobs. One bad arrest shaped his entire life. She stood. So when I see the same thing happening over and over, I do something about it. That's why I'm doing this. After they left the station, Chen turned to Helena in the parking lot. That was bigger than I expected. That was proof that we're right, that this isn't about one incident. It's about a pattern. But the redacted emails, the burner phone, the manual override of your flag, someone powerful is involved, Helena, someone who doesn't want to be exposed. Then we expose them anyway. Chen grabbed her arm. Listen to me. You heard Reyes. This could involve the superintendent, the chief of police, maybe the mayor's office. Those people have resources we don't have. They can make evidence disappear. They can intimidate witnesses. They can destroy careers. They can try, Helena said. But everything is documented now, backed up in multiple locations. If something happens to me, if evidence disappears, if witnesses change their stories, it only proves we were right. It only makes the case stronger. Or it makes you a target. Helena thought about the threatening text from the night before, the photo of her car, the warning about turning over stones. I'm already a target. I became one the moment I filed that Title VI complaint. The question is whether I back down or push forward. And you're choosing forward. I don't have a choice. Not if I want to look at Maya and tell her the system works. Not if I want to face myself in the mirror. Chen sighed. Okay. Then we push forward. But we do it smart. We don't tell anyone else what Reyes showed us. We don't give them advance warning that we know about the pattern. We save it for maximum impact Monday morning. Agreed. They parted ways, Chen heading to her office to prepare motions, Helena heading to a coffee shop 3 blocks away where Webb had said he could meet despite being reassigned. He was already there when she arrived, sitting in a back corner booth laptop, open, looking nervous. He stood when he saw her. Judge Sinclair, I'm sorry about getting pulled. My supervisor said I compromised the integrity of the case by posting your bail. You did the right thing. Don't apologize for that. They sat. Webb pushed a folder across the table. Before they reassigned me, I pulled everything I could on Ridgemont cases. Call logs, arrest reports, prosecution decisions. Your attorney should have most of this through discovery, but I wanted you to see the bigger picture. Helena opened the folder. Inside were summaries of the 47 arrests Reyes had mentioned, but with additional context. Prosecution notes, decisions not to file charges, memos about insufficient evidence. Look at the pattern, Webb said, pointing to specific entries. Every single case that wasn't immediately dismissed was handled by the same prosecutor. Senior ADA named Richard Cross. And in every case, Cross recommended dropping charges due to credibility issues with arresting officer. So Cross knew the arrests were problematic. Cross knew, and he buried them quietly. Didn't flag the pattern to supervisors, didn't request IA investigations, just made the cases go away. Why would he do that? Webb hesitated. This is speculation, but Cross is up for a judicial appointment. He needs the police union's endorsement. If he made waves about bad arrests, prosecuted cops for false reports, he'd lose that support. So he protected his career by sacrificing justice. Welcome to the system. Webb's voice was bitter. But here's the thing. Cross can't bury your case. You're too high profile. The media is already asking questions. If he tries to prosecute you and loses his reputation, is destroyed. If he dismisses too quickly, the union accuses him of giving preferential treatment. He's trapped. Which means Monday is going to be chaos. Cross will probably try to get a continuance, ask for more time to review evidence, anything to delay until he figures out his political play. Helena absorbed this. Who's the judge for Monday's hearing? Webb checked his notes. Alan Pritchard, Criminal Motions Court. Helena's expression didn't change, but something shifted inside her. She knew Pritchard, had worked alongside him for 15 years before he transferred to criminal court. He was fair, meticulous, and didn't tolerate games from either prosecutors or defense attorneys. That's good for us, Chen would say later when Helena told her. But in that moment, sitting across from Webb, Helena just nodded. "What else?" she asked. Webb pulled out his phone and showed her a news alert. Channel 7 had posted a teaser for their 6 p.m. broadcast. Judge arrested at elementary school, charges of trespassing and battery, exclusive details tonight. "It's starting," Helena said. "It's already started. By tonight, every news outlet in the state will be running this. By tomorrow morning, it'll be national. CNN, MSNBC, Fox, all of them. You're going to be under a microscope." "Then I need to make sure what they see is the truth." Webb closed his laptop. "Judge Sinclair, can I ask you something? Why didn't you tell Brennan who you were at the scene? You could have ended this in seconds." "Because ending it for me doesn't end it for everyone else. This needed to play out. Evidence needed to be collected. Patterns needed to be exposed. If I'd pulled rank immediately, none of that happens. So you let yourself be arrested, let yourself be processed and thrown in a cell, let your niece watch you get handcuffed." Webb shook his head. "That's either incredibly brave or incredibly reckless." "It's necessary," Helena said simply. "Change doesn't happen from inside the system's comfort zone. It happens when the system is forced to confront what it's doing. And you're the catalyst. I'm the documented example, the case that can't be dismissed as an outlier or a mistake. The proof that doing everything right still isn't enough when people have already decided who you are." Webb looked at her for a long moment. "My offer still stands. Whatever you need from the DA's office, anything I can access without getting fired, it's yours." "Why are you helping me?" "Because I told you. I see my family in your case, but also because I believe the law should mean something more than who has power and who doesn't. You're fighting for that, so I'm helping however I can." Helena's phone buzzed. Text from Claudia. "School called. Maya had an incident. Need you to come." Her heart dropped. "I have to go. My niece. Is she okay?" "I don't know." Helena stood gathering her things. "Thank you, Marcus, for everything." She drove to Ridgemont Elementary faster than she should have, her mind racing through possibilities. Was Maya hurt? Had something happened with another student? Was Principal Kellerman retaliating by making things difficult for her? The front office was tense when she arrived. Mrs. Porter looked up from her desk, her expression sympathetic. "Mrs. Sinclair, Principal Kellerman is waiting for you in her office." "Where's Maya?" "In the nurse's office. She's not injured, but there was an altercation." Helena's protective instincts flared. "What kind of altercation? Principal Kellerman should explain." Helena walked to Kellerman's office, each step measured. The principal sat behind her desk, posture rigid, her professional mask firmly in place. "Mrs. Sinclair, thank you for coming. Please sit." "Where's my niece?" "Maya is fine physically. However, she was involved in a verbal altercation with another student during recess. Things escalated. Words were exchanged. The other child's mother is quite upset." "What words?" Kellerman consulted a paper on her desk. "According to the playground monitor, Maya told another third grader that her aunt was going to make sure all the racist teachers and cops go to jail. The other child became upset. Maya then said, and I quote, 'Your dad's probably a racist too if you don't understand.'" Helena processed this. "And what did the other child say to provoke that response?" "Mrs. Harper's daughter said." Kellerman hesitated. "She said that Maya's aunt must have done something bad, or the police wouldn't have arrested her." So a child repeated what she probably heard from her parents, and Maya defended me. Maya used inappropriate language and made accusations of racism. That's not acceptable. Neither is having a child watch her aunt get wrongfully arrested, but here we are. Helena's voice stayed level, but steel ran underneath. "What disciplinary action are you taking against Maya?" "In-school suspension for 1 day. She needs to understand that making inflammatory statements has consequences." "And what consequences does the other child face for essentially calling my niece's family criminals?" "That's different. She was simply expressing confusion about what she'd heard." "No, Principal Kellerman, it's not different. It's exactly the same. Both children were processing a traumatic event that happened at your school on your watch because you made a decision to call police on a woman with valid authorization." Kellerman's face flushed. I followed protocol. You followed prejudice. And now my 9-year-old niece is being punished for defending her family against accusations that stem from your actions. That's not happening. Mrs. Sinclair, the suspension is already decided. Then undecide it. Because if Maya serves that suspension, my attorney will be filing an additional complaint citing retaliation against a minor child connected to a Title VI complainant. That's federal law. Do you really want to add that to Monday's hearing? Kellerman's jaw worked. The calculation was visible on her face. More legal exposure, more complications, more documentation of problematic behavior. Fine, she said finally. No suspension, but Maya needs to understand that what she said was inappropriate. Maya needs to understand that defending the truth isn't inappropriate. Standing up to injustice isn't inappropriate. But I'll talk to her about choosing her words carefully. Helena stood. Now I'd like to take my niece home. School day isn't over for another hour. I'm aware. I'm exercising my right as an authorized guardian to remove her early. Unless you'd like to contest that authorization again, we could call Officer Brennan for assistance. I'm sure he'd be happy to help. The sarcasm hit its mark. Kellerman's face went red. That's not necessary. Mrs. Porter will sign Maya out. Helena found Maya in the nurse's office, sitting on the examination bed, her backpack clutched to her chest. When she saw Helena, she burst into tears. I'm sorry, Aunt Helena. I got in trouble. I tried to be good like you said, but Tommy Harper said you were a criminal, and I got mad, and hey, Helena pulled her into a hug. You didn't do anything wrong. You defended our family. That's not something to apologize for. But Principal Kellerman said, Principal Kellerman is wrong about a lot of things. You're not in trouble with me. Maya pulled back, wiping her eyes. Am I suspended? No. You're going home with me for the day because I decided we could both use some ice cream and homework time away from this place. A small smile broke through the tears. With sprinkles. With whatever you want. They signed out at the front desk, Mrs. Porter handed Helena the clipboard, then whispered, I sent that video to your attorney, the one from my phone, the recording you asked for. Helena's pulse quickened. What recording? The one showing what time I issued your permit and what time Principal Kellerman made the 911 call. I kept my phone on my desk. It picked up everything. Mrs. Porter, that could cost you your job. The older woman's expression was firm. Some things matter more than jobs. My granddaughter is Maya's age. I want her growing up in a world where this kind of thing doesn't happen. She squeezed Helena's hand. You fight them. You fight them hard. In the car, Maya was quiet for a while. Then she said, Aunt Helena, are you scared about Monday? A little? Helena admitted. But mostly I'm ready. What's going to happen? I'm going to walk into that courtroom and tell the truth, and then we're going to see if the system works the way it's supposed to. And if it doesn't, Helena looked at her niece in the rearview mirror, then we keep fighting until it does. The weekend passed in a blur of preparation. Saturday morning, Chen arrived at Helena's apartment with 3 bankers' boxes full of evidence. They spread everything across the dining room table, while Maya did homework in the next room, occasionally peeking in to see how things were progressing. 15 witness statements. Chen said, organizing documents into piles. Karen Rivera is bringing 5 other parents who recorded video. Ms. Ramirez sent her footage plus a written statement about the pattern of harassment she's observed. Mrs. Porter's audio recording is time-stamped and corroborates everything. Helena reviewed each statement carefully, making notes in the margins. What about Morales? Has she agreed to testify? She's conflicted. I spoke with her yesterday. She knows what she saw contradicts Brennan's report, but testifying against a fellow officer could end her career. So she's choosing her career over the truth. She's choosing survival, Chen corrected gently. We can't judge that. Not everyone has your resources or position. Helena knew Chen was right, but the pragmatism still stung. What about Fenton? Radio silence. He's lawyered up. Union rep issued a statement saying all officers involved followed proper procedure and any allegations of misconduct are baseless. Of course they did. Helena sat back, rubbing her temples. What's our strategy if they try to continue? We object strenuously. We argue that you've already been subjected to unlawful detention, that your constitutional rights were violated, and that any delay compounds the harm. We push for immediate dismissal with prejudice. And if Pritchard denies that, then we're prepared for a preliminary hearing. But Helena, I don't think it'll get that far. Once your identity comes out, the political calculus changes completely. Helena's phone buzzed. Text from Webb. Senior ADA Cross just requested Monday's case file. He's taking over personally. This is going to be bigger than we thought. She showed Chen, who swore under her breath. Cross wouldn't handle a simple trespassing case. He's coming in because he knows who you are. Or because someone told him to. Either way, it means they're taking this seriously. We need to be ready for anything. Sunday afternoon, Helena took Maya to the park. They sat on a bench while the girl fed ducks, tossing breadcrumbs with mechanical precision, her mind clearly elsewhere. You're thinking about tomorrow, Helena said. Maya nodded. Will I have to go to court? No, baby. This is just a hearing. Adults only. But people will talk about what happened, about me. Some might, but that's not your burden to carry. Maya threw another handful of bread. Tommy Harper's dad called our apartment yesterday. He yelled at Mom. Said we were making everything about race when it wasn't. Helena's jaw tightened. What did your mom say? She hung up on him, then she cried. Maya turned to look at Helena. Is it about race, Aunt Helena? Or am I too young to understand? The question deserved honesty. It's about race, baby. Not because you or I made it about that, but because the people who called the police made it about that. They saw a black woman in a parking lot and decided she didn't belong, even though she had every right to be there. Because of the color of your skin. Because of the color of my skin. And because they have power and they've learned they can use that power without consequences. Until you, Maya said quietly. Until people like me, like Ms. Ramirez, like Mrs. Porter, like all the witnesses who are speaking up tomorrow, even though it's scary. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I want to be like that when I grow up. Someone who speaks up. Helena pulled her close. You're already like that, sweetheart. You defended me to Tommy Harper, even though you knew you might get in trouble. That's courage. I was scared, though. Being scared doesn't make you less brave. It makes the bravery mean more. They sat together until the sun started to set, feeding ducks, and not talking about Monday, even though Monday was all either of them could think about. Sunday night, Helena couldn't sleep. She lay in her own bed in her own apartment, staring at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario. What if Pritchard recused himself because they knew each other? What if Cross had evidence she didn't know about? What if witnesses changed their stories under pressure? At 2 a.m., her phone lit up. Text from an unknown number. Last chance to make this go away quietly. Withdraw the Title VI complaint. Accept dismissal with no civil action. Or face consequences you're not prepared for. Helena screenshot the message and forwarded it to Chen Reyes and Webb. Then she replied with a single word. No. The response came immediately. Your choice. Remember that you chose this. She blocked the number and lay back down, but sleep was impossible now. Someone was escalating. Someone was desperate enough to threaten a sitting judge directly. That meant she was closer to something important than she'd realized. At 5 a.m., she gave up on sleep and went for a run. The city was just waking up, streetlights still glowing in the pre-dawn darkness. She ran hard, pushing her body until her legs burned and her lungs ached, trying to outrun the anxiety that wanted to swallow her whole. By the time she got back to her apartment, showered and dressed, it was 7:15. Court was at 9. Chen had texted to meet at 8:30 for final preparation. Helena chose her clothes with care, the same navy suit she wore on the bench. Professional, authoritative, but not showy. Simple jewelry. Her hair pulled back in a neat bun. The uniform of someone who belonged in a courtroom. She was drinking her second cup of coffee when Claudia called. Maya wants to know if she can come, her sister said without preamble. Absolutely not. That's what I told her. But Helena, she's terrified something's going to happen to you. She made me promise to call her the second it's over. I'll call her myself, right after. And if it doesn't go well, it will. You can't know that. I can know that I'm walking in with the truth and documentation that proves it. Everything after that is up to the system." Claudia was quiet for a moment. "I'm proud of you and terrified for you. Is it okay to be both?" It's the only rational response. Helena checked the time. 8:05. "I need to go. I'll call you when it's done." She met Chen outside the courthouse at 8:28. Karen Rivera was there with 3 other parents, all holding phones with video files ready. Ms. Ramirez stood slightly apart, looking nervous but determined. Mrs. Porter had taken a personal day from the school to be there, despite knowing it might cost her job. "Ready?" Chen asked. "As I'll ever be." They walked through security together, a small army of truth-tellers, and took the elevator to the 3rd floor. Criminal Motions Court was at the end of the hallway. Media was already gathering outside, cameras being set up, reporters checking equipment. A young woman with a Channel 7 microphone approached. "Judge Sinclair, can we get a statement before you go in?" Helena paused. Chen touched her arm. "You don't have to." "I know." Helena turned to the camera. "My name is Helena Sinclair. On Wednesday afternoon, I was arrested while legally picking up my niece from Ridgemont Elementary School. I had proper authorization. I was parked in a designated visitor space. I committed no crime, but I was arrested, handcuffed, and charged with trespassing and battery on a peace officer because someone decided I didn't belong in that parking lot. Today, we're going to let the evidence speak for itself." "Judge Sinclair, do you believe race played a role in your arrest?" "I believe the evidence will show a pattern of discriminatory treatment. That's all I'll say until after the hearing." They pushed through into the courtroom. It was already half full. Helena recognized several faces. Detective Reyes sat in the back row. Webb was there despite being reassigned. Sergeant Lloyd had come, which surprised her. Brennan sat on the prosecution side with Fenton beside him, both in uniform, both wearing expressions of forced confidence. Principal Kellerman was notably absent, probably on advice from her lawyer. Senior ADA Richard Cross stood at the prosecution table arranging papers with meticulous care. He was 53, silver-haired, with the polish of someone who'd spent 3 decades in courtrooms. When he saw Helena, something flickered across his face. Recognition, concern, calculation. Helena and Chen took their seats at the defense table. The bailiff called out, "All rise, the Honorable Judge Alan Pritchard presiding." Pritchard entered from his chambers, robes flowing, carrying himself with the calm authority Helena had always admired. He settled behind the bench and reviewed the file before him. Case number 24-CR8847, People v. Helena Sinclair, motion to dismiss filed by the defense. He looked up. "Counsel, state your appearances for the record." Cross stood. "Richard Cross, for the people, Your Honor." Chen stood. "Naomi Chen, for the defendant, Judge." She caught herself. "For Mrs. Sinclair." Pritchard's eyes sharpened. He looked from Chen to Helena, and something passed across his face. He consulted the file again, reading more carefully this time. "Miss Chen, did you just refer to your client as Judge?" The courtroom went silent. Helena could feel every eye on her. Chen straightened. "Yes, Your Honor. The defendant is Helena Sinclair, Circuit Court Judge for the 9th District." The reaction was immediate. Cross's papers scattered. Brennan half rose from his seat before Fenton grabbed his arm. The gallery erupted in whispers. Reporters' fingers flew across phones and laptops. Pritchard's expression remained neutral, but his knuckles were white against his pen. "Judge Helena Sinclair, Circuit Court." "Yes, Your Honor," Helena said, standing. "I've served in that capacity for 23 years. Pritchard set down his pen with deliberate care. Mr. Cross approached the bench. Miss Chen Yu as well. The 3 attorneys conferred in whispers for nearly 2 minutes. Helena remained standing, aware of the cameras in the back of the courtroom, the reporters recording every moment, the witnesses who'd come to testify watching this unfold. When they returned to their positions, Cross looked like he'd aged a decade. Pritchard's voice carried across the courtroom. "Mr. Cross, does the prosecution wish to proceed with these charges?" Cross stood on shaky legs. "Your Honor, in light of new information, the people request time to reassess our position." New information. Pritchard's tone was sharp. Judge Sinclair's identity doesn't change the facts of what occurred. Either she committed trespassing and battery, or she didn't. Does the body cam footage support the battery allegation? The footage shows contact between the defendant and Officer Brennan, but the characterization of that contact is Mr. Cross. Pritchard cut him off. I've reviewed the footage 5 times this morning. Officer Brennan reached into Judge Sinclair's vehicle. She withdrew her property. At no point did she strike push or make aggressive contact with him. There is no interpretation. There is only what the camera recorded. Cross opened his mouth, then closed it. As for the trespassing charge, Pritchard continued, Judge Sinclair possessed written authorization issued by school staff. The 911 call was placed before that authorization could be properly verified. The sequence of events suggests the arrest was predetermined, not based on actual violations. He looked directly at Brennan. Officer Brennan, stand. Brennan rose slowly, his face pale. Officer Brennan, did you know Judge Sinclair's identity when you arrested her? No, Your Honor. She never... Did you ask for identification? I took her license. Did you run a background check beyond criminal warrants? Brennan hesitated. Standard procedure is to check for warrants and answer the question, yes or no. No, Your Honor. I did not run a full background check. So you arrested a circuit court judge on false charges in front of witnesses, including a traumatized child. You filed a report that body cam footage directly contradicts. You confiscated her property without probable cause, and you did all of this without basic due diligence. The words landed like hammer blows. Mr. Cross, the prosecution has 30 seconds to decide whether to proceed or withdraw these charges. Cross looked at Helena, then at Brennan, then at the evidence file that damned them all. The people moved to dismiss all charges, Your Honor. With prejudice. Yes, Your Honor, with prejudice. Pritchard's gavel came down. Motion granted. All charges against Judge Helena Sinclair are dismissed with prejudice. He paused, then added, I'm also referring this matter to the Attorney General's office for investigation into potential civil rights violations, abuse of process, and filing of false reports. And the gavel struck again. Final. Absolute. The courtroom exploded. Reporters rushed for the doors to file stories. The gallery erupted in conversation. Karen Rivera was openly crying. Ms. Ramirez grabbed Mrs. Porter's hand, both women looking relieved and terrified in equal measure. Helena remained standing, processing what had just happened. It had taken less than 15 minutes. 15 minutes to dismantle charges that had been 48 hours in the making. 15 minutes to expose a system that had been operating unchecked for years. Pritchard wasn't done. Before this court adjourns, I want to make something clear. This case represents a fundamental failure at multiple levels. Law enforcement, school administration, and prosecutorial oversight all failed. If Judge Sinclair had been anyone else without her resources and legal knowledge, these charges might have proceeded. That person might have taken a plea deal rather than fight. Their record would have been permanently damaged based on lies. He looked at the cameras in the back. Let this be a lesson. Documentation matters, witnesses matter, body cameras matter, and people in positions of authority must be held accountable when they abuse that authority. This court stands in recess. The gavel struck one final time. Helena sat down slowly, her legs suddenly weak. Chen was beside her immediately. We did it. Helena, we did it. It's not over. The Attorney General investigation will find exactly what we found. Pattern of discrimination, false arrests, retaliation. Brennan's career is over, Kellerman's career is over, and everyone watching this will know that the system can work when people fight for it. Reyes approached the defense table. Judge Sinclair, my investigation goes to the AG's office this afternoon. With your case as the centerpiece, we can finally get oversight for the entire district. Webb appeared next. I'm being reassigned again, this time to civil rights prosecution. My supervisor said they need people who care about this work. Thank you for showing me it matters. Karen Rivera was crying when she reached Helena. My kids have watched me just accept things for years. Today they watched me stand up. That means something. Ms. Ramirez was shaking. Principal Kellerman called this morning. She rescinded my contract renewal, but 3 other schools in the district have already reached out offering positions. Maybe losing that job is the best thing that could have happened. Mrs. Porter squeezed Helena's hand without saying anything, then left quickly before she could be identified by anyone from the school. The media was waiting outside. Helena stood on the courthouse steps with Chen beside her, Chen facing a forest of cameras and microphones. "Judge Sinclair, how do you feel about the dismissal?" Relieved, vindicated, but also aware that this is just one case. There are thousands of people who experience what I experienced without the resources to fight back. That needs to change. Do you believe you were targeted because of your race? I believe the evidence speaks to a pattern of discriminatory treatment at Ridgemont Elementary and possibly throughout the district. The Attorney General's investigation will determine the full scope. What message do you have for other people who've experienced similar treatment? Helena looked directly into the cameras. Document everything. Keep records. File complaints. Demand witnesses. Don't let anyone tell you that your experience doesn't matter or that speaking up will make things worse. The only way things get better is when people refuse to stay silent. Will you pursue civil action against the officers and school district? That decision hasn't been made yet. Right now, I'm focused on making sure the investigation is thorough and that systematic changes are implemented. One more question. Why didn't you identify yourself as a judge at the scene? Wouldn't that have prevented all of this? Helena paused, choosing her words carefully. I could have used my title to make that situation easier for myself. But then this would have been about me getting special treatment, rather than about the injustice of what happened. I wanted to document exactly how any citizen would be treated when they do everything right, and it's still not enough, because that's the reality for too many people, and it has to change. She descended the steps, Chen clearing a path through the media scrum. When they reached the sidewalk, Helena pulled out her phone and called Maya. Her niece answered on the first ring. Aunt Helena, are you okay? Did they let you go? More than that, baby. All the charges were dismissed. The judge said what happened to me was wrong, and now there's going to be an investigation to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else. So you won. We all won. Everyone who stood up and told the truth. That's how change happens. Can I tell Tommy Harper? Helena laughed, despite everything. You can tell Tommy Harper that justice worked today because good people chose to do the right thing. After hanging up, Helena stood on the sidewalk outside the courthouse where she'd just been vindicated. The same courthouse where she'd spent 23 years working. The building looked different now, not because it had changed, but because she had. Chen touched her arm. Where do you go from here? Back to work, back to the bench, back to making sure other people get the same justice I just got. And the investigation? I'll cooperate fully, provide testimony, give them access to everything, because this isn't about revenge, it's about accountability. Her phone buzzed. Text from a number she didn't recognize, but the message was clear enough. You've made powerful enemies. This isn't over. Helena saved the message and forwarded it to Reyes. Then she typed back, You're right. This isn't over. But now it's on the record, and you can't make it disappear. You chose to fight in the shadows. I'm fighting in the light. We'll see who wins. She blocked the number and put her phone away. Claudia was waiting at the bottom of the courthouse steps with Maya, who broke free and ran to Helena, wrapping her arms around her aunt's waist. You did it, Maya said, her voice muffled against Helena's jacket. We did it, baby. All of us together. What happens now? Helena looked up at the courthouse, then at the cameras still filming, then at Chen and the witnesses who'd risked so much to tell the truth. Now we make sure it meant something. Now we turn one victory into systematic change. Now we show other people that fighting back is possible. And will it work? I don't know, Helena admitted, but I know we have to try. Maya pulled back and looked up at her aunt with those serious eyes. Miss Ramirez said something in class once. She said Rosa Parks didn't end segregation by sitting on that bus, but she started something that couldn't be stopped. Is that what you did? Helena's throat tightened. I hope so, sweetheart. I really hope so. They walked away from the courthouse together, the autumn sun breaking through clouds, the city continuing its rhythm around them. Helena knew the threats would continue. The investigation would take months. Some people would try to discredit her to minimize what had happened, to protect the system that had protected them for so long. But she also knew that something had shifted. Not just for her, but for everyone watching. Every person who'd been told they were imagining discrimination. Every family who'd accepted injustice because fighting seemed impossible. Every victim of a system that valued power over truth. They'd seen that fighting back was possible. That documentation mattered. That witnesses could make a difference. That even people with authority and resources could be held accountable when enough people refused to stay silent. The work wasn't done. Maybe it would never be done. But it had begun, and there was no stopping it now. 3 months later, Helena sat in her chambers reviewing case files when her clerk knocked. "Judge Sinclair, there's someone here to see you, Mrs. Linda Porter." Helena looked up surprised. "Send her in." Mrs. Porter entered looking older than Helena remembered, but with her shoulders back and her head high. "Judge Sinclair, I wanted you to know. The school board voted this morning. Principal Kellerman has been terminated, security guard Morrison was fired, and they're implementing new training protocols for all staff about implicit bias and proper verification procedures." That's good news. It's more than good news. It's change. Real change. Mrs. Porter's eyes glistened. "And it's because you refused to stay silent. Because you documented everything. Because you fought back. You fought too. You sent that recording even though you knew what it might cost you." "I did. And I lost my job at Ridgemont. But I got a new one at the district office training attendance clerks on proper authorization protocols. They said they wanted someone who understood why the details matter." She smiled. "So thank you, Judge Sinclair, for showing us that standing up matters." After Mrs. Porter left, Helena returned to her case files. There was a motion to suppress evidence in a police misconduct case. The defendant claimed the arresting officer had lied in his report. The body cam footage contradicted his sworn statement. Helena reviewed the evidence carefully, remembering what it felt like to be on the other side. To know you were telling the truth, but wonder if anyone would believe you. To have documentation and still fear it wouldn't be enough. She picked up her pen and began to write her ruling. The motion to suppress was granted. The officer's report was contradicted by video evidence. The charges were dismissed, and she attached a note referring the matter to Internal Affairs for investigation. Because that's what justice looked like. Not perfect, not always swift, but possible when people refused to accept less. Helena Sinclair had been arrested in a parking lot for the crime of existing while black. But she hadn't stayed silent. She hadn't accepted injustice. She had documented, fought back, and forced the system to confront its failures. And in doing so, she'd shown everyone watching that change was possible when ordinary people did extraordinary things. That was the real verdict. Not the dismissal of charges, but the beginning of accountability that would ripple through the system for years to come. That was justice. Not perfect, but real. Not immediate, but inevitable. And it started with one woman who refused to back down, even when the world told her she should. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.